So clearly your priority is to keep and to bring peace into your home. So during like conflict or stress, what's a practical tip that dads can steal from you to help create that peace? Because we have the framework, right? But like, what's something specific like that guys can do to kind of create that peace, especially in conflict or stress?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So yeah, I mentioned this earlier, so I won't beat this horse too much, but realizing that most issues aren't emergencies, right? And so not thinking you need to immediately teach this lesson right now. We don't need to force it. We don't need to force the lesson. And so yeah, if it's a matter of safety, obviously remove the kid right away. But one thing that I learned recently that I just found super interesting is that if you are stressed, if you are having any kind of adrenaline going in your blood or cortisol, they've done experiments, and I can get into the cool experiments if you want, but for reasons we might not need to get into, people will literally be stressed just because you are stressed. Even if you say nothing, even if you show nothing, just like the pheromones are just enough to make
Yeah,
make kids get stressed if
93%,
you're stressed.
93% of human communication is not with words. So yeah, your
Exactly.
presence, your energy absolutely influences positively or negative.
Absolutely. And so yeah, just choosing to take 3 seconds to just pause, take a deep breath if you need to, just choosing to be the adult, just choosing to calm down, to consciously lower your heart rate or your stress or whatever it is. And even if you're exhausted, there's already one toddler perhaps throwing a tantrum. We don't need to like make the adult lower to the level of a toddler as well, right? And so yeah, you calming can often be a big factor in the kid calming down. Just and so that's just one thing to think about. And so yeah, pausing, realizing that it's not personal, that just because the
Yeah.
kid is upset and frustrated doesn't mean that it's a personal affront on you, on your character. And so just calming down and choosing to be the adult in the situation, and removing yourself if you need to. So I'm not a proponent of timeouts, kind of using, putting a kid in their room as some kind of like solitary confinement to punish them for something, to like think about what they've done. I'm but like if you put yourself in timeout, if you want to say it that way, could be something if you like desperately need it to just calm yourself down. Like I'm gonna remove myself from the situation as long as it's safe. That's something that might be helpful for some people. But yeah, it might be helpful if I have if you had a specific scenario in mind. But without that, that's a few of the thoughts that jump to mind.
Well, real quickly, the calm yourself down and stay stoic. That's good advice, not just for parenting men. That's also great advice as a husband.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's what me and Brandon teach very heavily within Elite Sentinel. So Luke, that's kind of a two for one right there. Yes, as men, we should emotionally regulate because that's leadership influence, right? Your presence really can change a situation, can really diffuse a situation. And so in this parenting example, I can remember multiple times, and this goes both ways. I have been out of control at times when my wife has calmed me down. So it's not like George is perfect and my wife is, I mean, that's not what I'm saying. But there have been times where she's stressed, she's tired, then my daughter will do something, and it's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, and I'm the one who comes in and is like, hey, we're good. We're calm. Like, honey, I got this. Let's go. Hey, kiddo, what's going on here? Like, and like you kind of just diffuse it with your stillness, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, there's no like condemnation to your wife or whatever. Like they've been dealing with this or that, and it just is, what I mean. But that's where that calm presence just completely smooths the waters for everyone. And yeah, that requires you to kind of slow down and not get defensive or reactive, and it's stoicism and it's an action, right? It's a good thing. Brandon, sorry, I kind of jumped in here. You were about to go too.
No, that was great. I mean, I agree completely. And, emotional mastery, once the dad gets it, right, and he's teaching it by example, the kid can learn it inherently by that. But my question to you from your parenting style and your philosophy is, outside of like example, how would you teach your kids the emotional mastery? Because it's one thing for the dad to learn that for himself, but it's another to teach it to your children, right? And each child's different, I understand, but just some general things that you think would be some good things.
Yeah, no, great question. So one thing that I got actually from Alex Hormozy, and I think he has a lot of wisdom, is that things like emotions or character traits like kindness or patience, when you boil it down to what it actually is, it's actually a bunch of skills. It's so like being patient is just figuring out what you need to do while you're waiting. It's not like being able to sit there and do nothing. It's like when something like time has to elapse before I can do something, I need to figure out what I do in the meantime. Like that's patience. Or like being polite is just, letting people finish and not interrupting them. It's holding the door for people. It's saying please and thank you. Like being polite is a group of actually really practical skills. And so what we can do for our kids is just teach them those skills. And so if they have a really hard time being patient, just say, okay, when you're standing in line, waiting for your turn at baseball practice, what should we do? Like, let's think about it. Should we watch the kid that's going right now? Should we watch the coach? Should we listen to something? Is it okay if we talk with our teammates? Is it okay if we goof around? Maybe not, like maybe sometimes. And so having the conversations very like low level about what exactly should we do in these exact situations. And I think a lot of parents just say, don't do that, or that was bad, or they say don't, or don't be that way, don't be lazy, don't be impatient, don't goof around, but they don't say what they should do. And so saying what they should do and not just what they shouldn't do is super helpful. Another thing, especially for younger kids, is just it's a tool I call I stole it from some book. I forget what book, but it's called Name It to Tame It. You just name their emotion. You say, I see that you're really upset right now because I said you couldn't have any ice cream, right? And just saying, I see that you're really mad at me because XYZ, because I said it's time to go. And you just help them build that vocabulary of emotion. And so eventually, after you do that a few times, they'll just be able to say, Dad, I'm mad. It's like, okay, great. Now we can talk about that. Like, it's perfectly fine for someone to tell you they're mad. Like, it's actually really helpful information. And you say, okay, I hear you. You're mad. Like, what's going on, bud? Like, what are you mad about? Like, let's talk about it. And there's of course good reasons to be mad. And so yeah, name it to tame it. Giving them really practical things they can do, and yeah, not solving things in the heat of the moment.